What do you do in those two ventures of yours?
Okay, so I think I'll just be able to share in briefs. But for the first one, that's within renewable energy. It's one that's working within the production, storage, and distribution of renewable energy solutions, within the Zimbabwean context again. And then the other one as well, it's more into travel tech. So the tourism side, the merge between tourism and technology. And that one was serving the purpose of marketing less popular destinations, a booking platform for tourism services, and mainly a dedicated tourist information center so that people would be able to know the different aspects of tourism, big destinations, services, the rules, some of the street knowledge that you need to have when traveling around. That was that particular the travel tech one.
Welcome to another episode of the ICT Minds podcast. Today with me is one of the most busiest young men in Zimbabwe, a 2X founder, and he is involved in the energy space. You hear a lot from him. So help me to welcome Jeffrey Takunda Murungweni to the ICT Minds podcast. Welcome, man.
Thank you so much, Admire. It's great to be here. Looking forward to
Wow.
the session as well.
Yeah. So, Jeff, I would be glad if you can share with the audience a bit about yourself, who you are, and what you would like people to initially know about you. Let's say they're at a networking event, they say, "Hey, how are you?" Say, "Who are you?" Please share with us.
Awesome. So I'll try to be as brief as possible. So like you rightfully said, my name is Jeffrey Takuna Murungweni. I am currently a fourth or beginning to start my fourth year academic journey at Africa University. I'm currently pursuing a Bachelor of Science honors in computer science. Um, I'm really passionate about tech, and the merge between tech and social impact, which is why I think in terms of the stuff that I've done, it's aligned more towards social enterprises within several sectors. The project that I've been able to work on. So I love to look at the integration of tech within community to have a positive impact. And the key main areas that I've been able to work on have been with tech within agriculture, finance, renewable energy and tourism. So those have been like my key passion areas, which I've worked on currently. But yeah, I think that's really a brief about me. I am currently based in Mutare. The eastern and more beautiful part of Zimbabwe, I would say. But yeah, I think maybe that would be a bit about me in a nutshell.
Okay, firstly, I wouldn't argue with you because I'm from Tare, so I know it's beautiful. Although Hararians will have another view on that, but
Exactly.
Tare is one of those nice places. Yeah. So Jeff, being a two-time founder, what have been the common challenges you experienced on both of your ventures that are common that a new founder is likely to encounter?
Thank you for that question. I think number one, the I would say one of the biggest challenges, yeah, I would say challenges, not problems, but challenges rather has been the fact that I'm trying to like balance those enterprises with school. So a balance is sort of like an idealistic kind of thing. So it's a give and take situation where sometimes you have to put a bit more emphasis on the school, and sometimes you also then have to put a bit more emphasis on the enterprises that you'd be working on. I would say that as the first thing. And then also, I think it's something that I've like then tried to improve along the way. But initially, I would have like the Silicon Valley kind of mentality when it comes to entrepreneurship, which is good, yes, but it also has to have context, and of which our Zimbabwean context is a bit different to the Silicon Valley context. So you might be having this crazy idea of an application that you would think, this is perfect for the
Mm.
market. And then you get to realize that it's not the same case here in Zimbabwe. So that reality check for me to realize that, you know what, I'm not going to walk up to a VC's office and walk out with $1 million. Um, just like that, the click of a finger, or if I create the next big AI thing, it's going to be a massive hit when take uptake really from an end user perspective is a bit low. Again, we also don't have much of a huge population to support a lot of those tech-based products. So those kind of realities for me, I think there have been good challenges which have helped reshape how I view entrepreneurship within our Zimbabwean context.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Because lately I've heard people saying that before you think of your next app, think of how we can fix potholes, think of how we can fix hunger, poor network. So like people are beginning to see that we have like more pressing matters than the app that will scan the latest books on a certain subject. And
Exactly.
as you rightfully said, Zimbabwe is a very tricky place. You have to solve like a real pain for people to be excited and interested or invested in your venture. So what do the two ventures do in a nutshell? I know that maybe the ideas are not yet fully protected. If you don't mind sharing, what do you do in those two ventures of yours?
Okay, so I think yeah, I'll just be able to share in briefs. But for the first one, that's within renewable energy. It's one that's working within the production, storage, and distribution of renewable energy solutions, within the Zimbabwean context again. And then the other one as well, it's more into travel tech. So the tourism side, the merge between tourism and technology. And that one was serving the purpose of marketing less popular destinations, a booking platform for tourism services, and mainly a dedicated tourist information center so that people would be able to know the different aspects of tourism-based destinations, services, the rules, some of the, street knowledge that you need to have when traveling around. That was that particular the travel tech one. Mhm.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. What what comes to your mind when someone say, I'm starting this startup because I really want to be my own boss and I want my own freedom. What has been your experience when it comes to that perspective, especially when you're approaching startups?
I think it's quite an interesting point, really. I wouldn't put that as a main reason for actually starting something. To just say I want to start this because I want to be my own boss or anything. But you have to really start from a need to solve a pressing challenge. And how you can solve that pressing challenge, it can be by working in an organization that's already in that direction. Or if you then see that there aren't any current solutions, then that's when you like actually start your own thing. It's kind of like saying I want to start a business to make money and everything. You see that it's something it's I would say business is not always good. So in those moments when it's in the bad season, the motivation that keeps you going, the discipline that keeps you going is actually the vision that you'd be having. So if your vision is more materialistic, when there aren't any materials to actually acquire for yourselves, you will let go of that vision. But if your vision is something more intangible, like the improvement of human livelihoods and all that against a certain metric that you'd have put for yourself, then it's something that you can still pursue until you reach that particular target. So yes, it's good to be your own boss. It's good and all that. But if that's the main reason now, then it might not be good enough. It might not give you the good enough energy to pursue during those turbulent times.
Yeah. Perfectly said. Yeah, it's more like character, which is built based on a long-term vision, something that is like a conviction within yourself of saying whether things are going well, whether I have that materialistic stuff or not. I should be able to pursue this goal until I realize it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so based on your experience, what can you share with, especially young founders, or on the funding landscape in the Zimbabwean space? I don't know how much you've raised, and I don't know if you have raised anything so far, but what you have learned based on your current experiences and your past experiences, what can you share with young founders?
Um, well, there are a couple of things that I would be able to share based off experience. We have been able to raise some. I just won't disclose the amount, but we have
Okay.
been able to raise some, and there are a couple of things that you get to learn. Number one, um, you in our particular context, you don't just necessarily raise an idea to just say, oh, I have this idea of this and everything, and then you expect people to give you money. It doesn't work that way. We
Okay.
got an opportunity last year with some of my team members to actually be in the UK, and we got to see the startup landscape in that particular part of the world. Um, so you confirm you can hear me? Just checking
I
my
can hear
network.
you. I can hear you.
Okay, okay, perfect. So in that part of the world, you can see that if you have an idea and it's something that you can even prove theoretically, you can get pre-seed funding to validate that idea. You get it. But in our part now, or so far as exposed as I have been together with my teammates, just an idea itself, it can get you the hype, but not necessarily the funding. You get it. So it's a matter of you then saying, okay, what's the minimum viable product I can actually start off with? Something that can give me the traction. Traction, for example, if it's an app solution, the users that are there, it can be the actual revenue. Revenue is actually far much better as a metric to use for traction because it shows that you have achieved product market fit. Now, if someone is now putting his or her money to you, then they already know that this is a proven model of generating revenue, right? So those are then some of the things that you look at and say, okay, before I reach out to people to say, oh, can I have 10K? Can I have 50K for the solution and everything? What have I, in my own capacity, done so far to get the ball rolling? Because that's also something that, fund actually look at the traction that you've had. Um, I would also say when it comes to matters to do with funding, some of the lessons is don't also put your energy all into just seeking for funding because you then also miss out on the actual thing, which is developing a good product and more importantly, developing a product that the customer actually wants, which when you do that, you then be able to achieve what we term the product market fit. Right. So that's the most important part. If you are able to understand your customer's pain point, not from how you see it, but from how your customer actually sees it. So we're now incorporating design thinking. Now, if you're able to do that now, and you start working on something which is addressing that, then if you then also say, oh, we're now dedicating some time to get funding, you are already on track, and you actually don't then focus much on the funding and all that, whilst losing track of the actual item, which is you addressing the customer's pain point. So I'd say those are like some of the key lessons I've actually gotten within this journey of trying to like fundraise, that to make sure the main thing is don't make sure that it doesn't make you lose track of the real thing, which is addressing the challenge.
Okay. So does receiving funding change your vision somewhere, somehow? Like, do the investors come with their own terms that sort of overrides or eliminates some of your initial vision, or you meet halfway, you compromise some, and you so like meet halfway? What has been your experience? Because I think we, as young founders, many young founders have their own perception of what happens when we receive that 25K, that 50K. What has been your experience?
The middle of, I think you've actually broke streams all happen. I have the funder because they are bringing in the financial muscle. They end up saying, you know what? Um, my vision stands. You get it? Because this is
Mm.
my money. And you end up then also losing focus of the real motive of why you started a particular venture. Then you also have some who are not so much into like hijacking a startup, but more into really funding its pursuit, and because they're more invested in the impact that you guys will most likely have. You get it? So that then those would be the more desirable kind of investors. But I think it then comes down to like some certain skills, such as emotional intelligence, communication skills, just that if you do have someone who is willing to fund you, but or turn around of the company to divert its focus and everything, I think it would be best to communicate first, to highlight that, this is the direction that we want to focus more on. And then for you to then say, do we really want the money or want to pursue this vision? I think that's the biggest question that, founders should ask themselves. Say, are we in it for the money or for the vision? So sometimes it's not all the money that you have to take up just because it's the same way they say it's not every opportunity that is your opportunity. Not every open door is for you. You get it? So it's then to then look at, is this open door right for me? And you get to, look at my vision. Is this open door aiding to the fulfillment of that vision, or it's actually redirecting? But on a side note, um, redirection is also not like a bad thing, because sometimes there are matters that we overlook, and we are so passionate and so filled with so much zeal about solving a particular problem, but we won't be solving it from an actual commercially sustainable point of view. You get it? So I
Mhm.
can think of, what, I want to create a company that, covers up all the potholes in the city, because we want an efficient road network and all that and all that. But if I fail to look at how will I make that particular idea sustainable, how am I also generating the revenue that will keep this idea sustainable, then I'm actually missing the point. So you can then have an investor saying, okay, I'm interested in this idea, but we can do it in this other way so that we actually have a way of generating revenue. You get
Mm.
it? Yeah, I think that would be my answer to that.
Okay. So coming to LinkedIn now, what have been major takeaways from using the platform, especially when it comes to building professional and social networks? Mm.
Awesome. So It's a question I really love because I think at school they see me as the LinkedIn preacher. I've come to realize that the LinkedIn is sort of turning into a new form of a CV, which is like I would say maybe your real-time CV in a sense,
Mm,
because of how the platform has been built. So you have a lot of thought leaders, a lot of industry professionals on that very platform. And it's a moment for you to showcase yourself within a particular niche, right? So I would really say LinkedIn has been like one of the, I'd say, key pillars in my part because
mm,
there have been a lot of people that I've been able to connect to via LinkedIn, and then you
mm,
reach out to them in their DM, and some do
mm,
respond, some don't. But anyways, the
mm,
very fact
mm,
that it's an opportunity where you can actually speak to someone from a whole other part of the world and you get to connect on a single platform. I think that's pretty impressive. There are like some downsides of it, which I wouldn't say is the downside of the platform itself, but rather of how we as people would now be using it in a sense. So you can see that for some, it's a matter of flaunting achievements. So I've done all this, that popular starting phrase, I'm excited. I'm excited to show you I'm excited to do all this. Like, yes, we get that you're doing a lot of things, but it's for me, I love to follow people who give both sides of the story. That to every success
mm,
there are also challenges that are part of
mm,
that part.
mm,
Now, if you then come and say, just work hard, keep grinding and everything, like a lot of people are actually grinding. You get me? A lot
mm,
of people are actually
mm,
grinding. But the
mm,
very fact that you haven't hit that breakthrough, or rather, if you have hit that breakthrough, it doesn't give you a reason for you to then look down upon people who haven't hit that very same breakthrough. So I'd say I usually share with my friends that, the danger of LinkedIn. LinkedIn is good. It's a very good platform. But the danger is just don't make it feel like you aren't doing anything with your own life. Because a lot of people try to portray as if um they're doing incredible things. Yet sometimes you might even be doing something far much better than they are doing. But the fact that you might not have the communication skills to amplify the small things that you're doing, because that's what some people do. But yeah, I think overall it's a great platform, really, and especially for young people. It's a platform not just to rush to showcase, oh, I've done this and everything, but it's a platform to learn, really, and be able to tap into the wisdom of those who've gone beyond, those who've gone before us in the journeys that we want to embark on.
very important topic that you mentioned right there. I also feel that sometimes I'm oversharing, so I think you also assisting me on that to say not everything needs to be there. Mm, let me ask you about your encouragement. What would be the words of encouragement to a young boy who is in Tafara Masasa, who is in Epworth, who is in Bari, who is in Doboshawa? What would be your words of encouragement? This young boy is ambitious. This young girl is ambitious. He or she dreams of becoming a computer scientist, and one day she meets you and learned that you are a computer science student at AU. What would be the words of encouragement to this young person?
I think, yeah, that's a really awesome question. I would actually say something that I've learned over the few years that I've been on planet Earth, which is to say it's all in God's timing.
Mm,
That's like the biggest lesson that I would sum up my whole life in that one particular sentence. It's all in God's timing. Why I'm saying this is because I've also been that one person who's been driven by a lot of ambition. Um, some would classify maybe as a high achiever or something along those lines. And the challenge with that now is there are certain processes that I love to fast track just so that I can get to the results. And for some of those processes, you can't fast track them. They're actually part of that particular journey. So I remember, and I actually laugh with my mom over this because there was a time in lower six when I was like, you know what? I now want to be a millionaire. So let me drop out of school. The money that you're supposed to give me for school fees, let me give me, and I'll start a farm and everything. And then in a couple of years, I'll be a millionaire and all that. Um, because you'd be thinking everything is so straightforward. If I get $5,000 in capital, I rent out the space, everything. And then you forget, oh, there's something called climate change. There's something called rainfall patterns, which are changing. There are things called pests. There are things called market volatility. All that. You get it. So you then become so stuck on, I want to be rich. I want to make money. I want to drive the latest Benz. I want to do this. And you feel you forgo that whole part of the journey which builds onto that. You know, I love a verse in the Bible which says, money that cometh quick goeth quick as well. And you then see that when you trust in God's patterns, in God's seasons, you see that all your experiences that you're actually going through, they are all there to build up on the particular promises that God has prepared for you. And again, if it's an issue of what do you get? If it's an issue of the end goal itself, which is the promises of God, you realize that there is a verse, Jeremiah 29, verse 11, which speaks about the end goal, right? The interesting thing, this is also something I've learned, which I also share with people. The interesting thing I've seen is God shares with you the end goal, but He doesn't share with you the journey in between. So faith, our faith now, it is tested by us remaining stuck on believing on the end goal and not the journey in between. So we go through many different experiences, right? And as people, we need to appreciate other people for what they are going through and not belittle them to say, you know what, for example, you can say to me, you know what, Jeff, you grew up in town, when I was young, I was in the rural areas, we used to walk 10Ks to school and everything. You kids of today, you now just bought into combis and everything. Like, yes, the 10Ks was your version of a problem, right? But for us, that part of having to hitchhike different combis and all that, it's also our own vision of the struggle. You get it? For someone, their own vision of the struggle, like I'm saying, my vision of the struggle could have been me jumping along several different combis, right? Or someone, again, they had the privilege of their parents taking them to school and back at their own convenience. Some, again, having the option to actually drive themselves to school. So you see, we all would be having our own visions of, our journey. But the most important thing is to understand that that is all part of the greater good, of the greater end goal, which has been like set for us. So in a nutshell, I've said a lot, but in a nutshell, it's simply trusting on the timing of God. Then when it comes to the AI tools, I think, yeah, before you get to the tools, one of the most important skills which I'm seeing that people need to have is actually prompt engineering. So this is I would say it's actually a new career path where you learn how to communicate with the AI. Because if you look at, for example, when you are putting in a prompt on ChatGPT, the more specific you are on that prompt, the more of the best response that you can get, the best response rather that you can get from that particular AI tool. So if you're able to understand how to communicate, right? For example, I can say, create for me a logo for a bank. That's a very general statement. But if I go on to say, I want to develop a digital bank that speaks to the youth, that brings out vibrancy, that brings out innovation, please create for me a logo that is these specifications and everything and all that, with a white background. I want my theme colors, I want them to be orange, yellow, and all that. That's something more specific, and you're able to get more out of the AI. So being able to learn how to craft the ideal prompts is, I would say, one of like the key skills what people need to actually have before we start looking at which tools rather. So in my programming work, I would say obviously ChatGPT. Yeah, I use that mainly for like, I would say, fine-tuning my text, the text-based kind of work that I would be doing. ChatGPT, yes. I'll then also Cloud for me is the one that I mainly use as my coding assistant. When I'm in VS Code, I make use of Cloud, either Sonnet or the latest one, Optus 4, which is pretty epic. So I'd say Cloud mainly for the software side of things. Then for refining text, again, Grammarly. For me, that has been like a huge one. So, but the danger now, which is something that I've also then seen, is you can then tend to transfer your thinking, your creativity to AI, which is something that you as the person, you're the one who's able to control that. So you know what? Yes, I know I can ask AI to create a whole new thing and everything, but it's better for me to use it as a tool to refine my own creativity thoughts. You get it? So I think that's a key thing, because we might end up then losing our creativity as humans and transferring it to the AI, and we just then use our brain to like know which AI tool to use to do a particular task, which is good. It improves productivity, but then there are also certain human elements that make us human, and creativity is one of them. Yeah.
Awesome, Jeff. Awesome. So when you are done with all your endeavors in life, what vision do you want to have achieved?
That's a pretty loaded question. I would really say for me, something that's key for me is to be able to support the livelihoods of people. So at this very stage that I am at, it's looking at what are the basics that we need to have a functional society. And for me, I believe, yes, there's the politics route of policy making and everything, but then there's also another route of entrepreneurship, which can also help achieve that end goal, right? There are also donors and all that. My route, which I feel I'll be more active in, is more of entrepreneurship. So if it's a community where whenever anyone wakes up, they have access to clean water, that would be a huge plus for me. If you are able to have access to renewable energy, because again, when you look at the concept of where, let's say, in areas where you don't have electricity, which in Zimbabwe, when you look at the research around the electricity access for us, it's quite low. The majority of us, and such is the same case within sub-Saharan Africa. So it's a case where a child is able to continue studying at home during the night,
Mhm.
where you don't have to wake up too early to first get firewood, and you actually miss out on moments or actual productivity, unlike chores.
Mhm.
That to me would be a huge plus. A moment where we the cases of malnutrition are not really still happening, where food security actually, because I think for me, like I mentioned earlier, agriculture is one of like my key areas which I've worked on, which I continue to work in rather. And really being able to achieve to be food secure, that's something that I would really put on like the very top of my list for that particular one. So when we are able to improve food systems, and it's not just by increasing the land that we are doing our crops on or whatnot, but is improving the particular systems so you can improve on what's currently existing. And I see tech having the huge role now of helping boost that productivity. As we venture more into precision farming, as we venture more into there's a whole other areas where agri-tech has an opportunity to boost its productivity.
Awesome. Last question, since you are into technology and you are coming from a computer science background, who is your tech idol? Since you also have been overseas and you have been exposed to some of these people we read and see in the media, who is your tech idol and why?
Um, that's good. It, I can't say I actually have one standalone um role model, but I would put uh, a few guys. Firstly, there's
Okay.
Strive Masiwa, Dr. Strive Masiwa.
Oh,
Obviously because he's been able to like bring out the merge between social entrepreneurship and tech. When you look at how Econet, came about and the impact that it has had and how it has improved communication right across the African continent, it's
mm,
through, people such as Dr. Strive Masiwa. I would also put in James Manika. He's also a Zimbabwean who's done incredible work within the tech space, one of the leading AI voices globally. I would put him on the list because I'd say, a calm person. I haven't had much noise around him, but when you look at the work that is actually done, it's really incredible. And for me, from a character point of view, that's something that I admire because I also don't want to be like one of the noisy people, but to have my work
mm,
do the talking. So
mm.
that's how I also then look at it. Um, yeah, I
From
think
Europe, from
primarily
the
those
Europe
are my
side,
two.
from Europe side.
I
You
would
don't
okay.
have
There's a more controversial one, and that's Elon
Mm.
Musk.
Yeah.
It's a more, I'd say, controversial one. There are elements of him that I admire, especially ambition. When it comes to ambition, like it's not every day when you wake up and say, I want to go to Mars, I want to move the human population to Mars. It's one that really is a radical kind of idea. And you see that radicalism, in a sense, it helps you to achieve great things because you can aim for the sun, but if you miss the sun, you land amongst the stars. But if you then aim for the stars now, if you miss them, you just fall back onto the ground. So you know that by aiming higher, even if you miss, you still be in a place of high altitude. So that's an element of him that I would like appreciate and would also want to like apply to my own life, but not his entirety as a person.
Yeah, I also believe I support your point of view of saying you would sort of like pick certain aspects of his approach towards technology. Maybe you wouldn't subscribe to his personality on a social level, but from a
Yes.
technology side or level, you would fight with him. So, with that being said, I would like to thank you so much for making time to share with me and the audience on your ideas towards life and technology and a bit about yourself and your startups and your studies. I'm wishing you all the best in your studies and please take care, Kumakomoyo.